Hello, everyone. Welcome on into another episode of Scholarly Sidetracks. And today we have on a Tracie Godfrey. How are you?
I am doing well, feeling really good, trying to stay hydrated.
Yeah, that's tough, especially here in the desert. You kind of have to have an
Yep,
IV in all the time in order to get close.
exactly. Exactly. But doing well.
Good. And for any of us who don't know who you are, what do you do and what makes you you?
I currently serve as the senior coordinator for success coaching and student engagement at UNLV. I also manage the Rebels Rise program, which is for students that are second year and beyond. And then just because I'm also a glutton for punishment and like money, I also teach COLA 100E, which is a first year seminar class every single fall. That's under the College of Liberal Arts.
So the whole umbrella is student services in multiple ways.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Which has really kind of been my calling once I figured out what my calling was after undergrad and then going into grad school and really just trying to figure it out as I went. And so I am really a product of failing, trying new things, really having good mentors, really having bad advisors. And I think that is one of the things that is makes me really excited about a podcast like this is kind of shining a light on everything doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, life is extremely messy. And when it comes to education and even my own journey, the messy parts is kind of what helped me grow and kind of brings me where I'm at today. So I'm super excited to talk about all the good, the bad, and the in between.
Well, good. I'm glad that we're embracing the sidetracks mentality because that's a lot of just talking to enough people. You find out really quick that we all have our own version of how we think things are going to go down or how everyone's going to tell us, oh, you want to go into pre-med, you want to go into law, business, humanities, whatever. This is how it's going to work. It's going to take this
Mm-hmm.
long. If you do
Mm-hmm.
anything outside of this, you're messing up. You're not going to be a good candidate for this, or you're going to be behind. And
Right.
that's just not really how life works. Like, yeah, in a
Exactly.
perfect world, most of us, if not all of us, could have that great track, but you're
Mm-hmm.
not any lesser just because you had some scholarly sidetracks.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
So let's go back a little bit towards near the beginning, or yeah, beginning of
Yeah,
the story in a sense.
absolutely.
Like high school, undergrad, what's kind of in your mind then? What are you hoping to be?
Exactly. Okay, so this is I love these stories. It actually makes me go back and be reflective. So I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and when you are from up north, and you are a girl of color, there's a whole experience that you're having in the 80s. So I was a, child of the 80s, born in the 70s, but essentially came to, I guess, my formative years of education in the 80s and early 90s. And I went to a small Catholic school, Catholic high school. I was in public school up until then in a little place called West Medford, Massachusetts. And my high school, North Cambridge Catholic, was sandwiched in between Harvard and MIT. So it's very difficult to kind of describe to people who don't live up north in a place like a Massachusetts or in New York. Like literally, there's a college on every corner, and not just any college. So you have your, Boston colleges, your BUs, your MITs, your Harvards, and all the places in between. And so if you are privileged enough to have access to that education, it's something that for me was always around. I came from a middle class family. My, mom owned a home. I'm the youngest of six kids. And, growing up in the late 70s and 80s, education was just extremely necessary and it was not optional. So I didn't have any people around me that didn't know that they were going to go to college, and we were talking about it often enough that it was just kind of what we did. So I graduated in 91 and a class of 48 people. So very, very small Catholic high school. You couldn't get away with anything. You know, Sister Lorraine and Sister Ellen knew everything that you did. The thing that was cool, though, about my Catholic high school was we had people from all different backgrounds. It was a very diverse high school, as well as not just with the students, but with the staff. I was not Catholic. I'm Christian, but not Catholic. And so I remember saying to my mom, why am I applying and doing this entrance exam for, you know, to go to Catholic high school? And it was really based on the fact that the public high school in Medford at that time was very volatile. And again, I'm the youngest of six. My brothers and sisters did go to public high school, but by the time it was time for me and my sister to go to high school, the one right, you know, my sister's 3 years older than me, closest to me, and she said, nah, you're going to be going to a Catholic high school. And so back then it was called college prep, and college prep essentially meant prepping you for college. So even it was even in the name, like you're going to college, right? Whether you think you know what you're gonna. There was no, yeah, there was no talk about professional. You know, you're going to do a trade or anything like that. It was very focused on going to college. And so I remember meeting with my guidance counselor and doing like, what colleges you're going to apply to and where you thinking you want to be. And so I wanted to be close enough to home, but far enough away from home so that I lived on campus. So I applied at all the state schools that fit in my mom's budget. She was a government employee, so she made pretty good money. But again, I'm the last of six. And I decided to go to Salem State, which was where the witches are. I don't recall really even thinking that I was not going to live on campus. So I knew I wanted to have the whole kind of college experience. I also was not great with time management. So the fact that I was able to live on campus really did allow me to not have to worry about commuting and being a commuter student, which I highly, highly, highly respect folks that do the commuter back and forth thing, because it is, first of all, I think the resilience that you have to have and the stamina that you have to have in order to commute back and forth to college, that's just a skill I don't think I would ever have. So
just keep coming back.
Yeah, just keep coming back and like really still trying to remain in like focused. And like I think the one thing that really helped me just thrive in college was being immersed all the time for 4 years in that environment. So that was what I knew. I lived and I breathed everything Salem State. So yeah, I feel like my high school laid a really good foundation, not necessarily for the class size, because the class sizes were for sure very different, although Salem State had a lot of, once you got into like my program classes, I was a communications major. I really only majored in that because I was like, well, I like to communicate and I talk well. And my sister, my oldest sister, worked in radio. So I was like, okay, that sounds like something good. I was really just trying to avoid math and science. Really, because I was like, that was not my jam. So Salem State literally changed the whole trajectory of my life, how I thought about myself, how I thought about myself in the world, how I looked at education as freedom, not just freedom to get out of my mother's house, but like, and like go hang out with my boyfriend and my friends, like without
the extra
restrictions.
levels.
Right, the extra levels. But really, I think what college does in higher ed in general, what it does, why it's such a field that still excites me, is because it is the classic reset. Like, there's very few times in your life that you actually get to fully reset. And I feel like every year it's so vastly different in college, and you get an opportunity to reset. because it is structured in a way that allows for some ambiguity. It allows for breadth and growth, and at least at Salem State, and I also believe in UNLV, just the way that our campus and programs are set up. There are many, many systems in place and people in place and initiatives and programs in place that calculate for that breadth, for the student to ebb, flow, fall, falter, and then programs around and people around, if they're doing it right, and I think Salem State did it very right, lift you up. And so mentors came to find me. Programs came to find me. So like many of the programs that I ended up joining or being a part of, I came to me, pulled my information and said, okay, she had a pretty good GPA in high school, but she didn't test well. Like I didn't do well in SAT tests at all. I just never did well in standardized tests. And so they came to me and said, okay, well, in order for you to thrive in the college environment, we want you to come early and start in the summer and do a 6 to 8 week program to get you ready for college level work. And of course, my initial reaction was, it's the summer. Like
that's my summer break. What are you talking about?
I'm trying to be outside with my boyfriend. Like, what do you do? Like, no. But then they really made it contingent on my acceptance that I needed to do it. And I think that is critical even now today with the programs that I run. Some of them are optional and some of them are not. Because obviously the professionals and the folks that do this work and the folks that like me that have done the research and know, if we make it optional, you're not going to succeed, or there's a lower probability that you will succeed. And it really is about messaging that to a student so that they don't feel shame, but they do defer to the folks that do this work and say, we kind of know what we're doing. So let's have a conversation. This is an offering. Like I tell my staff, in every space that they are in with the student, we're not trying to pull anybody's teeth, twist anybody's arm. This is all an offering. We are dealing with adults that have to make adult decisions. The reason we have programs that are like, yeah, come to this Success Series workshop. This would really be great for you. But then on the other side, we have the you must meet with your coach twice a semester to do that check-in. Because if we made it optional, you wouldn't do it. And so those kinds of things were critically important to me and for me. I had amazing mentors. Joyce Foster, one person who sticks out, actually approached me in my sophomore year at Salem State and says, well, I'm kicking off this new program called the McNair Scholars Program. And it's named after Ronald McNair, who was an astronaut. And essentially the program is to identify Black and brown and other underrepresented groups to get them to understand and strive and seek out postgraduate degrees. And I was like, okay, first of all, again, I'm always very skeptical of myself. Like, why am I the chosen
How do I fit in this? Like, I can't do anything for
how
you.
did you get my number? Like, why are you calling me or reaching out to me? But then on the really beautiful, emotional mentor side of it, wow, you've chosen me. And you see something in me that I don't even see in myself. And again, that program also had an added caveat of, we want you to engage in this program during the summer. I'm now a sophomore going into my junior year, but we're going to pay you. And I was like, what? You're going to pay me to
That's a new thing.
You're going to pay me to do academics. Like, I had never heard of that. I've never heard of it. I never was offered anything like that. And so what we did during that summer program, and I did it for up until I graduated was kind of cultural immersion, like learning about ourselves, learning about our where we come from, like kind of like the history that they don't teach you in school. That was also my awakening to many things about myself, my gender, my race, the system of higher ed, or even the system of K through 12. Like that was probably the first time that I recognized, I don't want to call it nefarious, but how the K through 12 system is built to purposefully withhold or not disclose information. And again, no system is going to be able to teach everything. You just can't. But there was a very deliberate exclusion of my people's history, our country's history, with indigenous folks, with African Americans, with folks in the Hispanic population, so much so that I had to seek out that knowledge about myself. And I was like, oh, okay. So it wasn't just Harriet Tubman and, Martin Luther King.
The three people.
And Rosa Parks. Like, everybody knows those three. There's so many other. And then, obviously, every Black History Month in February, you would get, the who's, the George Washington Carvers,
the truth
peanut
comes
butter
up for
guy.
a little bit.
Right, exactly. The guy that did the traffic light. Like, yeah, we were showcased during the month of February, but even for other races of people that they didn't showcase. And to learn as an adult that there was a very systematic reason that information was not taught to you in school was very awakening to me. Now, I come from a place where every morning from first grade to, kindergarten to 8th grade, we did the Pledge of Allegiance in class every morning. And I never paid attention to the words, really. I mean, I knew the words. I knew it like breathing. Like I knew my name. But I never paid attention to what I was pledging allegiance to. And it's wild to think that because I'm a very typical Gemini. Very bohemian, I would say. Very free-spirited, very outwardly spoken. I also think that's also just more, I'm the youngest of 6 kids in a Black family, so you have to speak up or you're not going to get hurt. But it was just really, I don't know, I feel like I got a little pissed when I was in college, like somebody duped me. Like I was duped. Like
who's been holding on to all this the whole time? Why couldn't I see it till now?
Yeah, exactly. So, just invaluable relationships, conversations, mentors, people who really took me under their wing. Then there's the flip side as well. So I had tenured faculty that, and this was also probably my first introduction to, oh, okay, this is what some folks that are tenured might act like. That there's this level of entitlement that they not only feel and outwardly show you, but it shows in how they engage with students. And I think that was probably the spark for me, or one of the sparks, or probably the spark that I was like, I could do this better. Or really, I think it was more like, why? Like, teachers were always just very revered. In any country, in any place in the world, like, no one is mad at teachers. Like, typically, educators are very revered and, talked about in a way like, we should pay you more, we should appreciate you more. Specifically, parents really revere teachers because a lot of times they are dealing with and having their child longer than the parent does. So it was very strange to me to now be in an environment where it was outwardly apparent that this dude or lady was voting it in. And they were not gonna, you're not gonna force them to do anything they don't want to do. You're not going to, they had knowledge. One thing that was really clear to me, it's like, I'm an undergrad. You already have a PhD, so I'm going to need you to talk in a way that I can understand. I don't have the credentials yet that you have. And in many instances, there were, I don't want to call it like the dumbing down, but like, you're here to teach me. So you can't have the expectation that I already know the things that you know. And so I frequently came across that in my major. I didn't really see it in any other place other than within my college. But Salem State, those 4 years, my mother was also very clear. She was like, you will be graduating in 4 years. You're not going to be on the 5-year, 4-year and a half plan. This is the money we got. This is the money I've allotted. Don't play games.
You got a goal in mind now.
Right, we have a goal in mind, a financial goal, a time goal. And I really do think that that was super valuable. Like, to kind of give me some fire. So probably one of, the best 4 years of my life. Just really foundational, really helped shape the woman that I am today. And obviously the catalyst for why I ended up then later going to Boston College for my master's in higher ed. So just an amazing experience.
Well, it's good that you liked it, especially with the PhD people that you can interact with, because you explaining however many people you might be referring to in that story. I could think of one big alarm in my head without saying names, because we're not being here to be mean.
We're not saying names, that's right.
But I remember when I was doing going back to college to do an astronomy degree to eventually be a professor, that's not part of the story really. But there's this one particular professor in the physics department that everyone knew notoriously was exactly as you described, of being, the God King on the cloud comes down with their presence, and thank God we can hear them speak and learn from them. And they couldn't really even teach you because you had to already know the stuff. And it irritated and pissed me off every single day. And not too many people, in fact, no one could really do anything about it because they were near the head, if not the head of the department. They were, tenured. They're bringing in all the money and research and blah, blah, blah. So you can't turn around and go, well, they're not a good professor, because everyone has it conflated to where they are doing good research or bringing in a lot of money. So they are a good professor because that's part of their job. And you go, yes, but that's not the whole thing. That's
not the whole thing. Exactly.
That is just a byproduct to say, hey, we need someone to teach because we have students, but to keep the machine of the college going, you need to bring in money through your research and stuff. So you have two facets to your job. And one of them always gets way more attention than the other. And I wish there were, it's be different at different colleges. I went to an R1, so it's research is the main thing.
Yeah.
But it becomes this weird cats in the cradle thing. You're like, well, if the whole point is to bring in money, but you have all these students that don't enjoy going to your school, or they don't get a good education, and they stop going there because you stopped caring about teachers, so the students got left behind. You lost the whole bag. Like, it doesn't matter how many researchers you got, the whole thing just crumbles away.
Right, exactly. And so I'm so glad that you bring that up, because I'd love to know, how did you then figure out, I have to assert myself. I have to say to myself, although this is someone, for all intents and purposes in a hierarchy that is above me, because they're, here to impart knowledge on me. How did you then realize, okay, I'm not crazy. This is not how it's supposed to go. And how did you figure out how to assert yourself in that situation?
I think two things helped out with that. And one, for this case, I had already done my one undergrad before. So I was back to college. I was, what's the non-traditional. I was more of an adult at that time, so I
Mm-hmm.
was more comfortable with
Right.
who I was, what I thought was right and wrong, or whatever.
Right.
So even though all my friends except for one or two were traditional and they're
Right.
just going through the same thing that any 19, 20-year-old would have go, well, they're the professor, that's just what it is. Like if it's
Mm.
hard, it's just hard. And I'm sitting there too much with wanting to be a professor myself at that time going, no,
Wow.
this doesn't have to
Have to
be
be this way.
hard. It
Mm-hmm.
can be, yes, we're talking about physics and there's all these different levels that makes it very difficult. But there's so many subjects out there that suck, that are hard, that are complicated, and you can still find people who can boil it down, make it
Mm-hmm.
interactive, find what it is that takes it out of their head and into someone else.
Right.
So it was easy to not get like lost in it. Yeah, I was probably one of two people that was sitting there going, what's with this guy? Why does he get to be
Mm-hmm.
an ass in front of everyone?
Mm-hmm.
And we just take it.
Right.
But the second thing then was basically being comfortable with disconnecting him from my education in the sense that I didn't have to see him as an ally or an asset to where
Right.
other professors I can be very comfortable going up and saying, hey, I got a question on this. Can we talk about this?
Mm-hmm.
Office hours, questions, blah, blah, blah. But to just go to this professor's class, realize, okay, this is just to break up the monotony of reading the textbook that I can go
Right.
in, have at least someone say something out loud, and that's it. I'm going to check in, check out, and not worry about this person ever. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that made it tough for other people who couldn't drop him off, couldn't disconnect in a sense
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
are used to having it be where, most of the time, I think you should go have a relationship with your professor in some way to where you maybe go to office hours once a week,
Mm-hmm.
every other week, and you have this
Mm-hmm.
dialogue and you're working on stuff. But when it's that kind of professor who's not really there for you, really, that's
Right.
the fast way to say it. They're not there for you.
Right.
If you're not one of their interns, undergrads, whatever word you want,
Right.
they don't
They're
care.
not gonna. Yeah. They don't care. Yeah.
So I had several classmates who were doing the whole rigmarole every week. They go in for office hours. They're trying to
Mm-hmm.
work it out, and they go, I still don't got anything. Like I go
Yeah.
in, I ask my questions, but then he just asks me the same questions back and be like, well, what would you do? And you're like, I've tried these things. They didn't work. That's why I'm here. Let's find another way. No, well, I want to know what your way is.
Yeah.
And you spend more time, like it's like some professors also get lost into like the philosophy all of a sudden.
Yes. Exactly.
They sit there and they're like, so why did you think that? Or why'd you, and you're sitting there like,
I just need help.
yeah, I'm like, dude, we're not trying to revolutionize how the human mind thinks or why you need to
Right.
know me out of 300 other students on how I think because you're going to
Right.
teach different. My
Right.
ass. So
Right.
it's like they waste time in office hours sometimes too, but that's
Well, I
conflating
think that
things.
you make a good point. So that brings up kind of what I've been working on a lot, just in how I create programs and coaching models and things like that. I kind of have to reverse engineer it. And I started with, first of all, understanding that how professors are hired. They are hired because they got an education, they got some credentials and some letters behind their name, and probably taught some classes or did some things. Maybe they're published. But most employers don't dry run those professors. Don't say, come teach a class or audit this class before we give you this job. And because it's just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, the pedagogy doesn't change. And so then the practice doesn't change. So professors learn how to profess, but they don't know exactly how to teach. And that is where there's the divide. And so what I love about my job and I love about what I've been doing over the last, 10 years, because prior to UNLV, I was also doing success coaching at Stevenson University, is you have to understand, we're a round hole trying to fit into a square peg, but the peg is the peg. So I can't go to every professor and say, so could you just do your job all
Could you be better?
totally different and be better? So you can't do that. So then there has to be an awakening and an offering to the student and having an honest conversation, which is another reason why I work with college students because you couldn't really do this K through 12. You can only do it with an adult student that's, 18 or 17 going into 18 and deciding to be in an environment like this and say, teach me how to do it. And having an honest conversation and saying, listen, there are going to be professors that are not going to teach you in the way that you need to learn. Specifically, if you have an IEP from K through 12, if you had any kind of learning disability, a 504 plan, they're not going to shrink to fit you. Even if you have accommodations, they will follow the accommodations that you've been given, stated by the college. But you, the student, are going to have to make the adjustments. And I know it sounds wild because you're the one paying. You are paying for this education. You are paying the salaries of professors and the administrators like me that do this work. And you're the one that has to bend. So what coaching is really all about and student engagement is really all about is having an honest conversation that I'm going to give you the answers to the test. That you're the person that has to change. This is how you're going to have to interact in this college environment in order to get out of it and extract from it what you need in order to get this degree. And so my hope is the more I keep doing that and the more students that keep bending and twisting and asking for more, essentially it will change the system of higher ed just as things with AI have changed. Like no one could have in a million years ever thought like ChatGPT was going to be a thing. And so my hope is that higher ed in general becomes more student focused and not faculty focused. Like there's this, I don't want to call it a fight, but I guess we could call it push and pull between the academic side and the student affairs side. Now, I've always straddled both. I've always done some kind of training, teaching part, so I get it. But I don't have a PhD. I'm not tenured. I've always been administrative. The majority of my higher ed jobs have been in academic advising. So having spent 15 to 17 years academic advising and meeting with students from all different majors and programs and having to have interactions with all deans and things like that, you start to pick up on things. And there is this, I don't want to call it a rivalry, but I feel like that's the best word. Like,
yeah,
you all get them into the college, but if you didn't have good faculty, they wouldn't, what are they here for? And it's like, so we're both important, y'all. Like we are harnessing them to make sure that they're ready, that they want to come to this environment, that they understand what they're getting. We also keep them engaged whilst they're here. And then the folks on the academic side, if you're doing your job right, you're retaining them and teaching them so that they can go practice once they graduate. So there is no competition. We're both needed. You cannot have one without the other. And then I would also argue that you could have a student that is a genius, has an amazingly high IQ. If that person is not prompted or guided to how to deal with people, how to deal with the sociology, which by the way was my minor in undergrad, the sociology of being in this space, of how to advocate for themselves, how to make friends, how to get involved, how to build community, how to manage their time, I don't like the word soft skills, but essentially that's kind of the word people use. Like, it's the everything outside of the physical, actual academic content. If you don't have that, then they can't succeed either. Like if you don't know how to do presentations, that no one will ever know you're a genius. Who cares? if you
You
don't
can't get it
know,
out.
yeah, exactly. If you don't know how to captivate an audience, then everyone will quit, will leave your class. So I would love to be part of the generation that shifts how people look at higher ed. And I think that shift is already happening because you have a lot of people that are deciding, I'm not going to college. I can make money and make more money elsewhere. And I'm cool with that. I'm all for it. In fact, I have 2 kids, 19 and 25. Neither of them have a college degree or are in college, which is wild because for me, college was such a, oh my God, I can't wait to get there and be there and do all the things. And they are nothing like me in that regard. So I think that that's probably a win for my husband and I because,
It's a little less tuition to pay.
well, not just that. That means that we really did raise 2 people that felt like I can do this how I want to do it. I don't have to follow anyone's blueprint.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't need to be a little mom. I'm nothing, I can make my own mark in the world. Now, I'll keep it very real. It is, I scratch my head a lot with them. I do.
Not sure how that's going to get to the end goal, but
right.
we'll
I'm
watch
like,
it.
well, first of all, what is your goal? Do you have any? What are they?
Whoopsie.
Share
What did
that
I just
with
say?
me. No, I mean, so I am extremely patient. I'm extremely patient, but I am honest in that I don't fully understand the lack of urgency. Because to me, you look around. Come on, we gotta be urgent.
Can I not?
Like, and the other thing is I feel like, unlike a lot of what was happening in my generation, and this was probably when it first started to kick off, you all have access to so many things. You talk about so many things. There's so much outwardly open conversation about help and receiving help, and self-care was not a word when I was in the 90s.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, that wasn't a thing. Now, we were probably doing it, but we didn't talk about it. We didn't make it like, we didn't put it on banners and t-shirts and be like, I'm taking a self-care. Like, no, we didn't do any of that. It was produce. It was find your rugged independence. It was very much create your own pathway because it is necessary for your survival. So I'm not of, the mindset of comparing, Gen X, Gen Z, millennials. Like, we're all individual persons. I do think technology has opened up higher ed and just education in general in a way that I think is definitely more positive than negative. But really, I just feel like having more options to growth, individual growth, is just going to help us as a people and a society. But we have so many other things that are happening in the world that are dividing us rather than bringing us together. So I really, really think spaces like this are the one place still that allow really purposeful and deliberate ways to build community.
And that's what I like when you say that. Hopefully the change is starting now or has already, and that's always been something that I've noticed with all the various backgrounds I've had, is that everyone tends to be, I kind of call it like bannermen of everyone gets into a track and that's the track. Like when I was doing pre-med, you have the science-minded. When I did audio school, you have more of the artistic-minded. Go back for astronomy. And then you suddenly have the hard science, where medicine, that's pretty hard, but you have like physics, and then you have medicine, and then you have psychology, which I don't even want to count, whatever. There's always this like bubble, like bubbling,
Yeah.
where everyone just gets into whatever bubble. Like it's nice
Yep.
to
Their
have your
silo.
community, your tribe,
Mm-hmm.
that you have the people like, oh, we all understand this topic. That's great. Every other topic sucks, right? Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
ours is better. And it's
Yeah.
infuriating
Yeah.
having looked at all these different things and experienced them and still being me the whole time of
Yeah.
going, we don't have to be like that. Like we have
Yeah.
benefits in a certain thing, and but then other people help fill the gap that we don't know or that we
Yeah.
suck at. And we could like, you want to talk about being on a team and stuff, but then you don't actually want different people on the team. You want just six people that are all the same on that
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
And I just don't get why people don't more often enjoy having someone different come fill. Like when I have something that I don't know what to do, I don't want to sit there and bash my brain in, or whether it's what I learned or just what I'm comfortable with, that I don't have to change all the way. We can find someone who excels and they enjoy this part that they can do. Like if we're talking like, we won't do a great example, but if I'm, let's say, a pure scientist, like I don't
Yeah.
care about arts at all, and I don't
Yeah.
understand why there's any funding in arts at all. But then on the flip side, I always want to consume TV and video
Yep.
games and books, and I like, for some
Yep.
reason I always want art, but I don't want to pay for it.
Yep.
Having someone who's more on the artistic side, maybe they just need to help describe to me why art is important, or just
Right.
bring it to my attention. Like, hey,
Exactly.
you can't enjoy your life or experience any kind of emotion unless you had some art.
Yeah.
And the world's better off because now we got two things. We have science and art instead of just having one. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think what lends itself to that is, in from a very young age, we're all taught to be very tribal. Find your tribe, find your community. And many times those communities don't intersect, except for sports. So I was never a sports person. I mean, I like to watch sports, but I wasn't engaging in any sports. And it was always really interesting to me how that was the one place most people could put aside race, could put aside differences, class differences. That was the one place where you saw we're all trying to strive for the common goal, which is to win in this sport. And really, if you think about it, in every place is really tribal. Like, even when you go to events on campus and it's like, tabling events, or, events about majors and colleges, they're all trying to vie and say, College of Sciences is better than College of Liberal Arts. And it's like, really, why couldn't we talk about, here's what we have? How does that connect with what excites you? So some of it is just literally changing your verbiage about something. We enforce to students in many places, you have to pick one. We make people pick and choose rather than say, here's the menu, create a salad. We very much, because our brains, I think, are very much programmed to, I want to belong. I want to be someone's person. I want to belong to a college. In fact, literally, that's what we just went through here. So when I was hired, I fell under the Academic Success Center. That was its own college when I started here almost 4 years ago. We had our own first year seminar. We have our own advisors that are called Exploring Major Advisors. And then last year, a little over a year ago, the folks up top decided that in terms of what students needed in order to feel like they wanted to choose us, they needed to be put in a college based on what they said they wanted their major to be. And so we push back on that. There's so much science and so much research that you might say, I want to be an engineering major. Great. you don't even know what that is when you check that box when you apply to UNLV.
Yeah, definitely
You
not.
have no, you don't know what that is. You don't really know what that is. Now, we're not here to crush dreams and say, you're not going to be an engineer. You can't, you struggled with math and science in high school. You think you're going to be able to do it at this level and have to go all the way up to Calc 3? You don't say that, but there is something to be said for, why don't you just explore? Or let's have you in pathways, which is what we had. We had pathways. So we had engineering, we had, pre-professional, we had pre-health, like have pathways, and then you don't have to decide a major until you get 30 credits of gen ed done. That to me makes perfect sense. But because there is this tribal mentality, and it's also a money thing. Students want to know, I check this box on the application. I want to be a business management major. I'm checking the box. I'm a business management major. Right, but you haven't even taken a class yet. You don't even know what that really is. But if you want, but the colleges understand a student wants to feel. They want to get the T-shirt. They want to get the sweatshirt. They want to, get the pen. They want to, write that on their LinkedIn. Like they want to have ownership and take ownership of a program before they have even taken one class. So it is very tribal when you have deans and assistant deans and faculty in various different departments saying, well, we need to have a clear distinction of how we're different from X program. And I don't, so that we're able to identify who our students are. And it's like, they're all of our students.
They're all rebels.
Right, they're all rebels. That's right. And so that's what you have to combat. I really feel like, and I didn't go to Montessori school, but my niece did. That's the model in higher ed we should be adopting. Like if you know anything about K through 12 Montessori. First of all, I think there's been some missed opportunities in bridging the gap or bridging the transition from what successful K through 12 stuff does, looping it into higher ed. A lot of the reasons why students struggle when they get here is because many times it doesn't imitate at all what their high school experience was like. You're not going to be able to go to your professor and say, hey, can I get some extra credit assignments to bring my grade up? Many professors are going to look at you like, no, did you read the syllabus? There is no, that's what your grade is going to be computed by. Or just how to have a conversation, like office hours. So I only have a specific time that I'm going to be able to talk to my teacher about what I'm struggling with, and I'm going to have to combat other students, and I'm going to have to come prepared to that office hour. That's foreign to a lot of people. They have no idea even how to do it. And then you couple that with all the other added things that happens with just the transition to college. I'm not saying that I have the formula, but I think what I do and what my area does is try to recognize and combat that is a real thing. Students are not doing well or are not transitioning well because of anything that really has to do with their intelligence. It has to do with skills. It has to do with exposure. It has to do with almost like you showing up for a test and you had no idea what was the content. And then you saying, well, why didn't you get a good grade on this test? Well, ma'am, sir, you didn't tell me what was on it, but you forced me to take it. And so I say all these things in all the places and spaces I can. But I also know enough and I'm smart enough to know if you're not going to come with solutions, then shut up. Like, really. I'm of the mindset, thank you, Tracie. Thank you, whoever, for all of your wisdom. What are you doing to fix it? And so I try my very best to, if I'm going to open my mouth and do judgy things, because that is kind of judgy, to be like, we should all be like the Montessori of colleges, like, or we should adopt X model. Like, if you're going to say things like that, especially because you know higher ed people are very sensitive. They are. I mean, and I am too, but just in a different way. Because I get it. I get I hate to use this word, but I don't know. We've all been indoctrinated with some bad habits, or some bad, or not bad, but with some ideologies that are not ideal for really how the brain works, or really how processes work, or how, so for instance, I am lucky enough to have been in this position, and my staff, one of the things I'm super proud of is my staff love coming to work. It is critically important to me that anyone who works with me, for me, loves what they do. And the only way I can do that is, first of all, it starts with the interview process. It starts with making sure they're clear. This is the team that you're going to be joining in. This is not like probably any other team you've ever been a part of. From my front desk leaders who do admin stuff, to my success coaches, to my peer mentors, to my interns. Like, I want everybody to fully understand what they're getting and what our main mission is. And our main mission is to change lives. Period. Your life as the employee, and for you to have full takeaways from this position. And I was never, ever of the mindset that you can't love going to work. Now, yes, there's parts of my job I can't stand. I don't really like data. I don't really want to be like, yeah, let's crunch these assessment numbers. No. I know it's part of what I have to do in order to prove where I'm at, where I'm going, and all that, but that's not my favorite. But I fully understood, and this is probably why my bank account isn't bigger. I'm not going to go anywhere for 8 hours I don't love. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Or have the potential to love. So any interview that I had, probably by my mid to late 20s, I was researching y'all just as much as you were researching me. I'm interviewing you as much as you're interviewing me. I am fiercely, overly confident that I am a massive resource to the environment. Sell it to me. Why do I want to be there? Now, I'll be honest, sometimes that threw people off. I don't think it came off arrogant, but I do think when a Black woman asserts herself and says, I have to love it. And if I don't love it, then I'm going to move on. And you should too, because then it's not going to work. It's like meeting a guy and saying, well, he's really cute, but other things are not vibing. So although he's cute, that's not enough. That's not going to sustain this relationship. So I think a blessing that I really had early on after I graduated from BC was, I'm not going to do it if I don't love it. I'm not going to do it. And I think, again, that sacrificed my bank account, but it created this thing in me that I wanted that to reverberate. Like, I wanted my grad assistants and anyone that works with me and for me to really get it. It also requires that you know how to read through the BS too, though. Like when you're interviewing or talking to people. And that doesn't mean that people are trash. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you might not fit in this environment because this is the trajectory of what I'm trying to do. You may be perfect to go be a research assistant. Or you may be perfect to be a TA. Or you may be perfect to do front desk leadership in another office, but not here because I'm trying to build community. I want students to know this is the place for you, and anything you're feeling up, down, or sideways is absolutely normal. And we are normalizing. You're not supposed to know what the hell you're doing. When every other place, most places in this space are saying, hurry up, get it. If you don't get it, you're not gonna you're gonna fail. If you don't get it, you're not gonna be.
It's over.
Yes. It's so, and I wish that people, that doesn't mean that there are no timelines. What it means is, I think the main thing is people don't understand how stress works in the body. Or they don't understand the exact thing that you're trying to get from a student, you are actually contributing to not getting it. You want the student to do well in your class, yet the way you talk to them, the way that you communicate, the way that you teach, your accessibility or inaccessibility, your vibe, the look on your face, the connecting them to resources, the seeing them as a whole person is contrary to the exact thing that you want. So if you want people to make A's in your class, and to write good reviews about your teaching styles, or to not drop your class, then I'm going to need you to pay attention to what it is you're doing to feed that end result. Because just the fact that you have a PhD and you have knowledge to impart has nothing to do with the student that is sitting on the other side. Nothing. Your education has nothing to do with that.
God, I could listen to you talk for hours. I fucking love this shit. Since there is not enough people that, I guess the care. I'm going to use the word care. Like
Exactly.
some people are, if you're going to be upset by, oh, are you saying I don't care? If you're offended, then maybe you're just not quite there yet. It's not saying that you don't want to care, that maybe there just hasn't been resources for you, blah, blah, blah. It's not what we're saying. But there are honestly a lot of people who, they don't care. It's not that they have any animosity. It's just neutral for them, or they're not doing anything positive.
Exactly.
They just don't have you in their head. They don't care.
They don't, or they haven't been shown the pathway. And so again, if I could be the president of all teachers or all faculty, or essentially change the tenure system, and I'm not saying it's all trash, but what I'm saying is it too much, in my opinion, focuses on what have you published, scholarly reviews, again, not to say that the pedagogy isn't important, but have you polled 100 students before you give anybody tenure? Like, let's talk to the students that taught you. Let's talk to them. Let's get a sense of how they would rate you. Like I've always said, the only people who can tell me if I'm a good mother are my kids. I don't give a shit about anyone else. Aaron and Ari get to decide, am I a good mom? Because I'm their parent. So you can get me cards and be like, oh my God, now I believe I'm a phenomenal mom. Because I work at it. And it doesn't stop just because they're grown. Just as once I got, a master's degree in higher ed, a master's degree in leadership. Okay, I'm done. I'm a leader. I'm a higher ed person. I'm an administrator. Those are credentials. I have to work at the rest. I have to do the work. So when you start to believe in your own press, and again, I'm not saying this is all faculty. I think it is a systemic issue. Not just tenured people, but if you made it a mandate before we give you tenure or before you get this merit raise, we're going to poll 100 of the students that you've taught. Well, wait a minute. Well, everybody, and they immediately jump to the defense. I wouldn't. Poll everybody that has worked for me, that I've taught. I want all the feedback. In fact, every orientation I say, you are not going to hurt my feelings. I have very tough skin. And don't wait to the end of the semester. Tell me right now. If you go to a success series or you have a coaching session, knock on my door or shoot me an email or whatever and be like, that was trash. No disrespect, but I didn't get it. That doesn't make sense. In fact, I keep undergrad students on my staff for that reason, because I ain't been to college in a minute. I don't know what y'all doing. I have young people at home, but again, my kids are not in college, so I'm like, y'all are like aliens. Talk to me. What's going on in your world? What's real? What's not real? Like, what I learned a lot about, especially after COVID or during COVID, was the massive amount of cheating that was happening. And how easy it was to cheat. And so think about this. And I don't know if I'm sure someone's wrote a dissertation on it, or maybe they haven't, I don't know. The people, my daughter included, started high school when COVID happened. Not putting aside the mental trauma that we were all going through while the world was having people dying by the thousands and from this new disease. You had us trying in all the places we could to just be normal. But it wasn't normal. There was nothing normal about that time. Nothing. The administration was not normal in the United States. We were all in a collective panic about things that we held like breathing, like masks, and not just masks, but like washing your groceries, like just the wild things that we all engaged in because of fear, and rightfully so. And then just the ticker tape of the death tolls happening every day. We were all going through, I think, this collective trauma. And so I have a high school student starting at that time, and you don't even know, we were ill-equipped to how to deal with, how do you encourage academia when all of that is going on. So, I mean, I did something I never thought in a million years I would do. We just unconventionally said, we're going to put your mental health first. We're just going to put it first, because it doesn't matter when you graduate high school. If you're not here and you're dead because you're depressed, it won't matter. So, if anything, I'm super proud of saying, you got to pivot. You're these kids that didn't grow up the way that you are. The world isn't the way that it was when you were in high school. So you can't think that you're going to parent or look at education in the same way. And so I would allow, just take a month off and just go to Sonoma and hang out with your people in my wine country. Go do that, because high school's going to be here.
Yeah.
Like, that was a wild idea, but I'm so glad that we did it. And I think when you look at people in college, there is this assumption, I think, that, well, they gained entry. I saw their transcript. They're set up for success. I'm like, GPA is not an indicator of are you thriving. Like, and I bet you could imagine what the faces in the academic spaces look like when I say that. They're like, I don't disagree, but what other metric do we have? Well, you got to create the metric. Create the metric. Ask the question. Like, ask the question. What else are you dealing with? What else do you need in order to thrive in this environment? Here's a novel idea, which is, probably not going to happen. What can I do to make your experience in this college space better? I bet you there'd be students that passed out if you asked them that. What? You what? You want me to tell you how? And so that's what I do. I literally do that. And it's not just me, my entire staff. And that's why I will tell you, like, what I do get, and this is how you kind of know who has the elasticity that I love in people. When I send my staff to do things that in typical situations they might say, well, it really needs to be Tracie here. I would say, why? I'm not an undergrad student. For what? You think they're going to relate to me more than someone who was their peer? If the goal is to get the messaging out, and I'm so sorry, my title is Coordinator of Success Coaching and Student Engagement. So let me determine how they're going to engage.
Let me coordinate that.
Thank you. Let's go. Let me coordinate that. So people just get very in their brain and, well, it's your program, it's your title. So what? Okay, I get the paycheck. That means I'm going to coordinate how I best deem it necessary. I bet you if you ask 10 of these students, are they going to relate to me? 53-year-old woman that has all these degrees, and they're looking at me like, she's already done this. How's she going to relate to me? Or the peer that is in the trenches and struggling or has something to offer from lived experience. Who do you think they're going to choose? Like, please, stop. Stop it. And so they can't really argue. And so this is what I love about being in the 50s, hon. I am unapologetic. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. This is me. I know what I know. You're not going to tell me I don't know what I know. I'm happy to debate your way, but please come with your receipts. Please come with them. Come with them. And let's do it.
Be ready. Don't be half-assing this.
Exactly. Be ready. Come with the receipts. And I don't claim to know everything, but what I challenge people, specifically in spaces like this, and I am not going to cower to fear in spaces where my voice can be heard. It's not about me being an elitist or I have all these degrees and I have lived experience. I can tell you from being a person who watches, I watch, I wait, I see, I ask questions, I receive feedback. You won't hurt my feelings. I want to be challenged. I lean into difficult conversations because I know that about me and who is around me. I know I'm moving the needle forward. That's the proof. I don't have to write a dissertation. Many people have said, oh my God, why don't you get a PhD? And I'm saying, I thought about it. I decided to get a second master's instead in leadership. Because I'm like, I can do what I want to do right now without a PhD. So you want me to go to school for more stuff and sit in front of a committee? Now I could have got an EDD, which is a little different, but I'm like, for what? Because so I can make a little bit more money so that, sure, I would love some more money. I love money. I love it. But the structure of how EDD programs, PhD programs for the areas I would be trying to concentrate on, and sure, maybe I was just tired of school. I'm not doing it. Again, I'm loving right now what I'm doing. I don't need additional education to validate that for me. And I'm not mad at any of y'all that do it. Do it. Dr. Whoever, do it. I'm not doing it. I love y'all. Do it. Do all the things. I respect that. I'm also very anti-hierarchy because to me, those things are for you. I don't care that you have great, that's great. Yes, I want my doctor that's looking at me or operating on me to have been the top of their class and have done all the residencies. Yes. But I'm not on the table and they're spouting their GPA to me and their credentials. That doesn't, can you fix me? like, like, are you going to care for me when I'm in your presence? That's my takeaway. And I just want and hope and wish more people do that. You get a blip on this planet and then it's over. So let's just do better, y'all. Like,
Doesn't have to be a bad blip.
it doesn't have to be a bad blip. Exactly. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ask a question. I'll talk forever.
No, this is the whole point of the show. I'm sitting there looking at the timer. I go, we're already over an hour. And it doesn't even feel like it. We're just crashing through.
We'll have to do a part two.
This will be the first one. That only episode. We'll do 2 parts. Everyone's like, wow, why is there 2 parts? Because we like to talk.
We like to talk. But go ahead. Other questions.
I guess just to give a little bit more to, since we were talking a little bit about the credentials and blah, 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 in case there's some people listening and go, I like what she's saying, but maybe they're still stuck on the credentials.
Yeah.
You mentioned after you got your communications major and sociology minor, you went and got 2 masters.
Yep. So I went to Boston College, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Jesuit institution in Boston, Mass. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. BCBU is, right underneath the Harvards and the MITs in the Massachusetts world. And I was like, oh, am I gonna be good enough to thrive here? Which is wild. Because I had been a McNair scholar, great mentors. I think there is still a part of me that was like, can I thrive in that very white space? Very upper class space. Very academic space. Now, when I say academic, you see what I mean. Like, I'm a brain person, but I'm unconventional and I push back. I knew that was going to be a different environment for me because I wasn't, I was a grown up. I was working full time. I'm now going back for my master's. I'm funding it myself because my mom was like, I'm paying for that undergrad degree. Anything after that, you're going to have to pay for. And so I wasn't going to be able to be like, I only want classes after 10 a.m. Like it was very foreign to me. So I was a little bit like, can I do this? And so I applied to one grad school that had the higher ed and administration program master's degree and got in. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm here. Let's do it. How am I going to do it? And so it was a true lesson in, I don't even want to say I don't think I managed time. I think I was always on simmer. Because I had so many things I was doing. You're doing so many things. It's a new environment. It's invigorating because I just loved everything but statistics. I loved. I had amazing teachers, and the environment was great. The campus was beautiful. I'm big on environment. Like, my environment really does set the stage for how I'm gonna be motivated. So, like, in my office, as you can see, it's low light. I have my wax burning. I'm a big smells environment. I have pictures of people that I love on the wall. I have stuffed animals. I need visual, something that touches 5 senses. And whenever I can control that environment, I want to control it. So it was really critically important for me to, also, I don't like to fail at things. Doesn't mean I don't have ebbs and flows, but I try my very best to prepare so that I don't fail. And again, there is no wiggle room, or very little wiggle room in grad school. So it had to be all A's and B's. And so that was pressure. It was an amazing program. I graduated, and then it was like, okay, now you got to go get a big girl job. And what was great about, again, building community, keeping your networks, not burning any bridges, is Salem State, I was still in contact with the deans and all that and people, and someone had heard, my old advisor or program coordinator heard that I was in a master's in higher ed program. And she reached out to me and said, hey, I heard you're getting a master's in higher ed. And I was like, oh my God, yes, Linda. And she was like, I might have a job for you. And so the program that I had to do in order to gain entry into Salem State became my first job as the coordinator of that program when I graduated. So it was like the craziest full circle moment in life. Like, I was literally coordinating and running the program that started my trajectory. It was crazy. And it was like surreal to be at Salem State as an employee rather than I have struggled with so many things. There's no doubt that God exists. Like, there was no doubt. So that was an amazing experience. And then my husband and I, when we got married, actually by the dean of the college, he's also a pastor. He married us. And then we decided, all right, it's time for us to leave Massachusetts, and we moved to Maryland, and I got a job at Walden University. And that was my first experience with for-profit education, which it's very different. It is a very different animal. But if anybody does it right, I think Walden does it right. So I was academic advisor, and again, you're exposed to all these things. I wasn't on the admission side, I was on the advising side. But I was like, ooh, this master's in leadership sounds like could be my jam. And they literally pay for 85% of it as an employee. So I was like, well, why not? It's under the School of Business. I recognized I really did want to kind of increase my exposure to the management side of it. Like, in theory, I think I knew I would be a good manager, and that I understood kind of that nature versus nurture leadership model, but I didn't know it enough to feel confident that I could navigate it well without some additional credentials. So that's why I was like, well, okay, y'all are going to pay 85%. It's all online. Let's do it. And it was an amazing program. Amazing program. I learned so much. And it was although it's under the School of Business, it very much intersects with a lot of methodologies and how that connects with higher ed. Because the track that I was doing was essentially leadership development and how you develop leaders. And I think that's probably why I look at things in a little different perspective than a typical higher ed person. I know sometimes it can come off judgy. It's not judgy. It's more, you don't have all the information, and that's why this sounds normal to you. And I can tell you don't have all the information because all you're talking about is you and not them. The people that are actually the ones you're here to serve, even, and this is like just my little, I wouldn't call it a pet peeve, but something I note. I note when people say, if they get cringed by the word serve. in service of. I'm in service here to you, to serve you. And if they don't use that terminology or synonyms that couple what that means, then I know that they don't get it. Because whenever you're given the opportunity to mentor someone, whether it's directly or indirectly, you have an obligation to be of service. That's what it's about. Then shut up if you can't. Then be quiet. And it's okay. Go do what you gotta do. Collect your paycheck. Make your millions. Lead your people. But if you're not gonna attack it or come at it in service, then you're not getting it. You are in service. I'm here to impart on you. Take what you would like. Come, I'm an open oyster. Aside from, yes, everybody needs additional training and additional things, it does come down to you must change your thinking. And unfortunately, I think people don't typically change unless pain is involved or discomfort. Like if they changed the tenure process or they changed merit, like, no, yes, we can see by the numbers you've taught X classes or you have done X research, or I don't care if you've cured cancer. If you are looking for something, I need to actually physically engage and talk to people, or there needs to be some additional metric. And so that's one of my wishes. I don't know how I would make it happen because I'm not a dean. And those things happen at high levels, right? But I think in the little world that I have, and it could be that I'm sparking the person that's going to do the thing. And it might be 10, 15 years from now. It might be you. Like, you might become something that I sparked because of something I said or conversation we had. And then that's fine. I don't need the kudos. Go do it, Bryce. You know, and so
I'll remember you.
Give me the shout out. That's all I want.
We'll always have this episode no matter what.
That's right. It will live in perpetuity. But yeah, that's essentially it. So Walden, BC, really two vastly different spaces. Obviously, my foundation is Salem State. And I've been very deliberate with the positions that I've held to ensure that I give myself a breadth of different places. I worked at Valencia College, which was a big community college in Florida. I've also, again, both my husband and I are Gemini, so we're very bohemian, and where we just be like, all right, we don't want to live here anymore. Let's pick up and go to another state. And I think my kids are better for that. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they'll have to work it out in therapy, but that's just who we are. We were always very honest with, if we don't like it, we're going to move. Like, if we want to try something different or think there's a better opportunity, we're going to go. And I think that is served us well. So I've had opportunities to work in nonprofit organizations that were dealing with GED and adult basic ed, and that was extremely humbling. That's probably the one time I did kind of feel like an elitist, because I'm like, wow, you know, here's some people trying to strive to get a high school diploma, and I have, you know, these 2 master's degrees. How do I even relate? And then you find ways to relate. You find ways to just understand. Education is just literally about, I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. And this environment, this subject matter is going to contribute to that in some way. That's all that it is about. That's really, I just want to know more today than I did the following day. And some of that, yes, has to be selfish. But then hopefully we're all sitting in places and spaces of mentorship, um, or in areas where we're trying to help or impart knowledge. Because however you're sharing it, you're sharing it. A doctor is sharing their knowledge of the body with you every time they examine. Your professor is sharing knowledge with you about a particular subject for you to then see where that fits in the peg of life for you. So we're all interconnected. And to me, that's education has always just been freedom.
So, in that conversation of mentors, do you find that you are a product of past mentors that you had, that you've coupled, like you've like, oh, I liked a couple things they did. I want to make sure I stay away from what that person did because that was
Yeah.
terrible. Or how do
Yeah.
you feel like you've distilled your own style from mentors that you've had?
Yeah. I really have taken mentorship positively in I have a good way of recognizing I don't want to be your everything. We're here to have a dialogue and a conversation, and I had mentors that were very open to, let me just have a conversation and spitball with you. I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to give me an answer. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I just need a sounding board. And so I very much function in that way. Like, I am a smart, intelligent woman, but I am not living your life. So I have an offering for you. I can provide you with how I might go about this particular dilemma. But ultimately, you are a person that's made up of many things. So that to me, I think, was one of the critical things when I would have conversations with my mentors at Salem, or even when I, was in grad school and in therapy. How, like, a lot of people say, and even I was saying the word, I'm authentic, but I wasn't living authentically. And so having people that can call you out on that or guide you to, okay, well, you're saying this thing, but really you need to be living it. And so that was critically important. And then on the kind of negative side, recognizing when you want someone to show up for you, but they just can't, or they've chosen not to. And knowing that's okay. You just can't do it. And so, again, I had a faculty advisor who never really advised me. Like, he would say, well, just come to our meeting knowing what you want to take, and then I'll just sign off on it. Okay, well then, how are you advising me? So I recognized very early on he was one of those people that just wanted to phone it in. He wasn't interested, although he was the chair of the department, he wasn't interested in mentoring students. He was going to sign off, check boxes, and then move on. So I think that taught me a very valuable, hard lesson, which is some people don't have the capacity, or they just don't want to do it. And you have to recognize that so that you don't stifle yourself. And so I think one of the things I try to do when I do training for my staff is we talk a lot about, and we go through scenarios of, which happens a lot, when you are giving students all the advice and they take none of it. You have to be prepared that it's not personal. That this is not about you. And it might take 10 times for it to sink in, or it may never sink in. As long as what you're giving is accurate and is done with good intention, then you kind of have to put it out there and then let it fly. Like, that's what we're here to do. There are many coaches that get frustrated with students that are like, I keep telling them this thing. If they just did this thing, they wouldn't be, and it's kind of like, well, we're all told a lot of things. And but it doesn't resonate with us until it does. Like, that's just kind of how nature works. I am so thankful that I chose sociology as a minor because it really helped me understand it's not about me. It's really about everyone's individual journey, and where I fit in that journey, you get to decide. And I'll actually be better for it myself mentally. Like, once I realized, and my husband and I have been together for 38 years, and it has not been perfect the whole time, but he is my best friend. And once I was able to realize, oh, okay, I don't need to fix him. I can't. I would love for me to, like, cookie cutter, like, here's my list, just do it. And then, to be honest, do I really want that? You don't. You don't want that. And so I got free once I realized I don't need to control everything or do this is the story, this is the beginning, the middle, and the end. And it's a formula. That's probably why I was never good at math and science, because I'm not a formula person. I need grade. I need to be like, is it really that way? Have we computed for this scenario? Like, that's why statistics was so hard for me, because I'm like, okay, this is very linear, y'all. And it was so hard for me. But yeah, I'm super grateful for the autonomy that I get to have in my current job and in most jobs. I think in the interview, most people know if we're going to hire her, she's going to really kind of do her thing. So we're going to need to be able to be okay with that. And that's the other thing. I don't have 2 versions or 3 versions of Tracie. I'm this. This is me. You've talked with me twice. I don't change.
It's the same.
I don't change. I don't ebb flow. I don't code switch. Like, this is me, who I am. It's okay if you love it or you don't. But I love me, and I know my purpose. So it is the most important thing you can do for yourself is to be okay with exactly who you are.
Well, now we're asking a lot, but I like it.
Okay, or be striving to be okay. And not letting anybody think that, convince you that you should be anything other than who you are.
Why do we need, 8 billion, 9 billion of the same person? I mean, we
Exactly.
might not have that many people, but,
Exactly.
whatever. You can have your own version, and it works or it don't. It doesn't
Or that you're
break
a
the
work
world.
in progress. Right. You can, that doesn't mean you come without needing some polish.
Some updates here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. I still need polish, but we all could do, I think, a little better with lessening the rigid lines that you have to follow. Like, there's only X number of ways to get to this thing, and I think that is what torments so many people, students in particular. Not to say you shouldn't have tracks. Like, it's 120 credits to graduate. We've determined that X credits should be, broken down by this in order to award this degree. I'm all about accreditation, and I subscribe to all of that. But I think there could be a little more humanness attached to those 120 credits to graduate, because then those people that get the graduating and do the graduating have to then go out and be in the world. And I don't know if a lot of it translates. So I love an internship. I think it should be required. I did one, and I literally figured out, oh my God, this is not what I want to do. But I was a junior, and it was a public relations internship at Girls Incorporated, amazing nonprofit organization. I was pretty good at it, but then I realized literally by the second week, I was like, oh no,
Nope.
this is not what I want to do for my life. And that was like scary but amazing. Because I was like, well, I'm not changing my major now. I'm a junior. So I'm going to finish this program. And I also was able, again, through mentors, see, well, even though you're not going to go into that, like, I'm not going to work in a public relations firm, there's many transferable skills that you have learned that you can extract from that major. And I think that was the part that was invaluable. And my advisor was not having those conversations with me. He was not interested in that. So it was my mentors that showed up in my life at all the right times to have conversations with me to say, okay, well, because of course I felt like I was having an existential crisis. But they were like, no, no, no. So you learned how to public speak phenomenally. You are someone that knows how to craft a message, because really public relations is about messaging. You are unapologetic about seeing the big picture and knowing how to communicate that to the audience you're talking to. Like, I very rarely have to prep because of how my brain works. That's an invaluable skill because there are people that have to do lots and lots and lots and lots of prep. When my brain just automatically, in many ways, digests information, I know how to read a room. Or read people, I guess. Again, sociology, public relations, lots of teachers being very honest and open with me about, what's this fluff you're writing? That's fluff. I need you to just say what you need to say. Like, and hurt my feelings in the moment, but invaluable feedback. And then communications, if nothing else, is about feedback. So very early in my, academic, I was 19 years old and getting feedback constantly. And so that's why it's baffling to me when people are like, no, don't tell. I'm like, don't you want to get better? It's wild to me. So it was during my existential crisis, amazing that I had people around me to say, no, this is still good. This is good. This is good that you are going to have all these other transferable skills to figure out then what's next, because then that's how I ended up in the higher ed program. So everything happened for a reason. I am so, 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 so blessed and thankful for all of the stuff. Good and bad and in between that I've had.
Well, good. It's nice that you were able to embrace trying things and seeing it for how it really is, because that was something that, like, for myself, on what got me to keep changing all these different tracks I was on, because
exactly.
I didn't know what it was like to actually be a doctor, to actually be an audio technician, to be a professor, and blah blah blah. And it's hard to find that fine, or how to dance the fine line, I guess. With one thing I've always been in disagreement with how some people might do their education is like the associate's track and then doing bachelor's, where they do all their gen ed stuff first and they don't get a single taste of whatever degree they want. Like how we were saying engineering before, how they go 2 years into college before they even know a tiny bit about this degree. And like how UNLV or whoever else also will have more like exploratory spaces to where people can get a sample, and yes, it can be through gen eds or through specifically a class that shows, like, over the semester we're going to talk about 15 career lines, whatever. But giving a person an active time to, hey, do you like this thing? Here is what it is. Do the thing, and then think about it. Don't just like, yeah, it's nice to reflect, but you can only go so far in your own imagination because you only know what you think it is or what you
Mm-hmm.
know. Like I thought
Mm-hmm.
professorship was going to be the prettiest shiny thing. Like I get to just go up there and tell people, like in this case it was space science. So I was like, oh, I get to
Yeah.
just teach astronomy. It's going to be fun and stuff. But then you find out about how a lot of schools need research, how you might need
Yep.
to deal well, work with, I don't want to say deal because it's not negative really, of
Yeah.
undergrads. It's not, you don't
Yeah.
just show up, teach, and leave. There's all these extra parts to it. And I wouldn't know that if I didn't talk to professors and go, hey,
Yeah.
tell me the shit. Like, I want to be one. You don't have to sell me on it. What's the
Right, but
bad parts? What are the
what's the
parts you
good
don't
and the
love?
bad of it? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, but I think even if a little bit of reverberation changes things, like the ripples of how people look at teaching, look at mentorship, look at spaces like this, where you are, it's a big job to be around young people or people in college because you're at the most critical time of their life when they're trying to grow. No one would have a baby if they really told you how hard it is to be a parent. Like, I wouldn't have done it. I'd have been like, nah, I'm all right. I'll be like,
I don't need
if you
that.
really fully understood like what it is truly about, no one would do it because it's wild. But I think you can look at education the same way. It's a huge, I never ever am lost on whether or not I'm gonna see that person or they call me their mentor. They're in this space to grow, which means I must care for them. I must be careful with them. I must understand that the experience that they have with me, even if they never see me again or when they're in this space, is going to contribute to their experience. Like, if you think about it, it's humongous. Just like my son will say, I mean, and we always call Aaron the unicorn because he is the most, I don't even know how he came from me because he is 10 times more loving and caring than could ever be. And he'll say things like, yeah, I remember, really, really sat down to explain something to me when I was 7. And that you were just really patient. And I was recognizing you had somewhere else to be, but you took the time to make sure I understood. That's crazy to me. He is 25. Just like wild that, something like that, something purpose. Now, granted, there's plenty of other times I screwed up or I was snippy or I was like, okay, sweetie, like I gotta go or whatever. But the part that is really amazing is that he remembers and that contributes to who he is as a man, how he is careful, how he loves, how he functions in the world because of little things that I did. That's it's crazy. So why would anybody think that in this environment the same thing doesn't hold true? Just because I didn't give birth to you and we don't live in the same household doesn't mean I get to be lackadaisical about how you experience me. I don't. So, it's wild, Bryce, but this has been great. This is crazy. I could talk all day.
Hey, that's fine. I got nothing this evening.
I could talk all day. I mean, I have a 2:30. This was amazing. I would love a 2.0. We could definitely circle back if you want about anything. But yeah, I feel like the work that you're doing is amazing.
It's,
Yeah,
that means a lot.
I just feel like
that.
you're doing something that is so unique and necessary that, but I also know because I'm big anti-spam. So I want anything that I'm presenting to somebody or to a group of people to be like, I have thought this through with you in mind. And this guy is doing podcasts that are really going to change how we think about things, I think most people in education really have their heart in the right place. They really do. Even if they're a hot mess. They really do. They have their heart in the right place. They just need guidance and direction on how to make that more hitting the purpose of what its intention is. And so people need guidance. And the other thing I want people to get away from is, well, Bryce is only in his 20s or whatever.
He's just an exam proctor at some
Correct.
random medical school. What's he got to say that's worthwhile?
Exactly. And I want people to stop that. Because it's not real. Like, I can teach you things, you can teach me things, we can all teach each other things. And I think specifically in the academic space, there needs to be more of people like you, because you represent more people than not. So
Messy tracks.
yeah, exactly. All right, I have a meeting
yet.
in 3 minutes.
All right,
Let me
thanks
know
again.
if you need any. Yeah, absolutely. If you need anything else, let me know. This was amazing.
Cool. Yep, I'll get this worked down a bit, give you the rough edit. We'll worry about doing a second part this season or later. I really don't care. It'll all be
Absolutely.
good.
Thank you, Bryce. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too. Talk to you
All right,
later.
hon. Okay, bye.
Bye.